You're all welcome to today's deep news analysis. This is not noise. This is not rumor. This is one of the most serious legal developments in Nigeria right now. If you care about justice, the rule of law, and Nigeria's reputation before the international community, then watch this video to the very end. Because what we are about to discuss goes beyond politics. It touches on international law, accountability, and the future of high-profile cases in this country. Do not forget to subscribe, like this video, and turn on your notifications. Stories like this move very fast, and when they do, facts matter more than emotions. Now, let us go straight into it. On the 20th of November, Nnamdi Kanu was sentenced to life imprisonment. After the judgment, he was moved to Sokoto Prison. That decision shocked many Nigerians. Supporters described it as extreme. Critics defended it as lawful. But what makes this development different is that the conversation is no longer limited to Nigeria. It has now taken an international direction. According to emerging legal information, the ICC has begun proceedings to review complaints connected to what some have described as costly legal errors surrounding that life sentence. And once the ICC begins to examine a matter, it immediately raises the stakes. Because the ICC does not get involved in ordinary legal disputes. It intervenes only when there are claims that serious violations of international standards may have taken place. Now, let us be clear and realistic. The ICC does not simply arrest anyone because of public pressure. It follows a strict legal structure. The first step is a preliminary examination. This stage allows the Office of the Prosecutor to study petitions, legal filings, human rights reports, and formal complaints that have been submitted. The prosecutor looks at jurisdiction first. Does the issue fall within the court's authority? Then admissibility. Has the country involved handled the case genuinely? Or are there grounds to believe that justice was not properly carried out? Only after those steps can anything move forward. What has made this matter more sensitive is the history surrounding summons and compliance. Reports indicate that Omotosho had previously been summoned in relation to legal concerns raised about procedural conduct. However, he failed to appear as required. That earlier failure to respond has now become part of the wider legal attention. And that detail matters. Because when a summons is ignored in matters touching international review, it signals possible non-cooperation. The ICC keeps record of such actions. Cooperation with proceedings is taken seriously. Now, let us return to the main issue. Nnamdi Kanu's life imprisonment on November 20th immediately created division across the country. Some believed the sentence was based on the full weight of the law. Others argued that certain processes leading to the verdict were flawed. Those arguments have now moved beyond national debate. The ICC proceedings are not about public opinion. They are about whether there were grave breaches of fair trial rights or other international legal obligations. If complaints submitted to the prosecutor contain credible claims of unlawful handling, denial of due process, or serious procedural misconduct, the court is obligated to review them. That review does not mean guilt. It means scrutiny. And scrutiny at the international level carries weight. Nigeria is a signatory to international agreements that recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC under defined conditions. This means that while Nigeria maintains its sovereignty, it is still bound by certain global legal standards. That is the balance at play. If the ICC determines that Nigeria's judicial process was genuine and met international benchmarks, the matter may not proceed further. But if it believes there are reasonable grounds to question the integrity of the process, the case can advance to the next legal stage. That next stage would require judicial authorization before any formal investigation begins. So where does this leave Omotosho? At this stage, it places him under international review. Not conviction. Not sentencing. But review. However, being summoned before and failing to appear introduces a layer of seriousness that cannot be ignored. International legal bodies view compliance as a basic obligation. Failure to cooperate can influence how proceedings develop. This development has also placed Nigeria's justice system under global observation. When a high-profile case reaches the ICC's desk, the world pays attention. Diplomats pay attention. Legal institutions pay attention. The implications stretch beyond one individual. They touch national credibility. They touch institutional trust. They touch how justice is perceived inside and outside the country. What began as a domestic criminal proceeding has now entered a wider legal conversation. The ICC's involvement, even at the preliminary stage, signals that international law is watching closely. And once international law begins to watch, every step taken afterward becomes critical. This is not speculation. It is procedure. The ICC moves slowly. It reviews documents carefully. It examines evidence independently. It does not rush to satisfy headlines. It focuses on legal thresholds. That is why this moment is important. Because whether the proceedings end quickly or move forward, the fact that they have started sends a clear message. This case has crossed a border. And when a case crosses a border into international jurisdiction, it carries consequences that are far larger than many people first imagine. The next question is simple but very important. How does the International Criminal Court actually handle a matter like this? The ICC does not act based on headlines. It does not move because of public pressure. It follows a defined legal structure that is written into its founding treaty, known as the Rome Statute. Every step must meet a legal threshold before it can move forward. The first stage is called a preliminary examination. At this point, the Office of the Prosecutor reviews information that has been submitted. This information can come from individuals, legal representatives, civil society groups, or even state parties. The prosecutor does not assume guilt. The role at this stage is to study whether the allegations fall within the court's jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is key. The ICC only handles specific categories of crimes, such as crimes against humanity, war crimes, genocide, and the crime of aggression. It does not function as a normal appeal court for national judgments. That means the issue must raise concerns that go beyond ordinary legal disagreement. It must suggest serious violations of international law. After jurisdiction, the next issue is admissibility. This is where the principle of complementarity applies. Under this principle, the ICC will not step in if a country is genuinely investigating or prosecuting the matter itself. The court acts only if a state is unwilling or unable to carry out credible proceedings. So in a situation connected to the life imprisonment of Nnamdi Kanu, the prosecutor would ask direct questions. Were the national proceedings genuine? Were fair trial guarantees respected? Is there evidence of serious misconduct that could amount to an international violation? These are legal questions, not political ones. If the prosecutor finds that the information does not meet the threshold, the matter can be closed at that stage. If there is a reasonable basis to proceed, the prosecutor may request authorization from ICC judges to open a formal investigation. Judges of the pre-trial chamber must review the request independently. They examine whether the legal requirements have been satisfied. Only after judicial authorization can a full investigation begin. During an investigation, evidence is collected, witnesses may be interviewed, and documents are examined. This process can take time. The ICC does not rush. It builds cases carefully because the standard of proof at later stages is very high. Another important point is cooperation. The ICC does not have its own police force. It depends on member states to cooperate with requests, including summons or arrest warrants if they are issued. When an individual has previously been summoned in related proceedings and failed to appear, that detail does not automatically establish wrongdoing, but it can affect how cooperation is viewed. The court expects compliance once it asserts jurisdiction. If, after investigation, the prosecutor believes there is sufficient evidence, an application for an arrest warrant or summons to appear can be submitted to the judges. Again, judges must approve it. They assess whether there are reasonable grounds to believe the person committed crimes within the court's jurisdiction and whether arrest is necessary to ensure appearance or prevent interference. If a suspect appears before the court, there is a confirmation of charges hearing. This is another safeguard. Judges determine whether the evidence is strong enough to send the case to trial. If charges are confirmed, the matter proceeds to trial before a different panel of judges. The accused has the right to counsel, to challenge evidence, and to present a defense. The process is structured to meet international fair trial standards. It is also important to understand that ICC proceedings are public and closely monitored by the international community. Decisions are written and reasoned. States that are parties to the Rome Statute are expected to respect the court's rulings. In this context, any proceedings connected to alleged costly legal errors would be measured against these strict standards. The focus would not be on political arguments but on documented conduct and legal obligations. Every stage requires proof, review, and judicial approval. Nothing moves forward without meeting clear criteria set by international law. At every stage, the burden remains on the prosecutor to prove that the case meets international standards. Speculation is not enough. Public debate is not enough. There must be documented evidence showing that the alleged actions fall within the crimes defined by the Rome Statute. It is also important to understand that states have the right to challenge admissibility. Nigeria, if necessary, can argue that its courts handled the matter properly and that the ICC has no basis to interfere. Judges would then decide based on law, not emotion. This structured process is what separates international criminal proceedings from political controversy. Each move must be justified in writing, reviewed by judges, and grounded in established legal principles. The implications of ICC proceedings for Nigeria are serious, complex, and far-reaching. When a high-profile case like the life imprisonment of Nnamdi Kanu draws international attention, it is no longer just a matter of domestic law. The world begins to watch every decision, every step, and every legal action. Nigeria's justice system, its institutions, and its credibility come under global scrutiny. This is why the matter involving Omotosho is particularly sensitive. His previous summons and failure to appear in relation to complaints connected to the case have only heightened international focus. While this does not automatically imply wrongdoing, it adds a layer of seriousness because compliance with legal requests is a critical element in ICC proceedings. For Nigeria, the first and most important consequence is reputational. When a case reaches the ICC's attention, it signals to the international community that there is a possibility of procedural or legal errors in the handling of a high-profile matter. Governments, human rights organizations, and international legal observers all pay attention. Diplomatic discussions are influenced, and Nigeria's image as a country that upholds the rule of law is evaluated on a global stage. Any perception that proper legal standards were not followed could affect foreign relations, international cooperation, and even foreign investment, because countries often look at governance and judicial integrity before engaging economically or politically. Another consequence is the message it sends about accountability. The ICC is not a political body. It is a judicial institution that focuses on serious crimes and violations of international law. Its involvement in reviewing complaints does not depend on public opinion or political narratives. It depends on documented evidence, adherence to procedure, and legal thresholds. This reinforces the principle that in Nigeria, even high-profile legal cases must be handled with care, accuracy, and adherence to both national and international law. Any errors or oversights can have implications beyond the immediate parties involved, affecting not only individuals but the integrity of the justice system as a whole. The proceedings also highlight the delicate balance between sovereignty and international obligations. Nigeria is a sovereign nation with its own legal system, courts, and enforcement mechanisms. At the same time, it is a signatory to international treaties and conventions, including the Rome Statute of the ICC. These agreements mean that while Nigeria maintains the primary right to prosecute and adjudicate its own matters, it also carries responsibilities to ensure that justice is administered according to established international standards. The principle of complementarity ensures that the ICC intervenes only when a country is unable or unwilling to carry out genuine legal proceedings. However, once complaints raise credible concerns about serious violations or procedural errors, international law allows for review and possible investigation. This delicate balance requires Nigeria to handle high-profile cases meticulously, ensuring that both domestic and international standards are met. Legally, the ICC's involvement can also influence the behavior of key individuals involved in the process. Omotosho, for instance, is now under international scrutiny. While the ICC has not issued charges at this stage, the fact that previous summons were ignored could affect how cooperation is viewed in the context of the court's proceedings. Compliance, transparency, and responsiveness are crucial. Any perceived obstruction or failure to engage could have consequences, not necessarily as proof of guilt, but as a factor in how the proceedings unfold. International bodies consider cooperation an essential element of judicial review, and non-compliance can complicate a case, slow proceedings, or even affect credibility. From a political perspective, ICC attention adds pressure to all stakeholders. Decisions by the judiciary, prosecutorial offices, and government authorities are observed with greater intensity. Political narratives alone cannot influence outcomes. Every action must be legally defensible and procedurally correct. Any deviation from due process may be scrutinized as a potential violation of fair trial rights or international standards. This creates an environment where officials must act carefully, ensuring that every step can withstand both national and international review. For Nigerians, the larger lesson is clear. Justice is now being evaluated not only within the country but also by the international community. High-profile cases, especially those involving life imprisonment, have implications beyond politics. They test the capacity of institutions, the integrity of legal processes, and the commitment to fairness. They also reinforce the principle that no individual or institution is above legal standards, whether national or international. At the human level, the ICC's involvement ensures that due process, transparency, and accountability are upheld. Individuals involved in high-profile legal matters, including Nnamdi Kanu, Omotosho, and others connected to the case, are being observed under a global lens. The outcome of any proceedings, even preliminary examinations, sends a signal about how justice is administered in Nigeria. It also shapes public perception and confidence in the system. Finally, the ongoing review by the ICC reminds everyone that legal processes have consequences beyond the courtroom. Every procedural step, every summons, and every decision matters. The life imprisonment of Nnamdi Kanu, the movement to Sokoto Prison, and the international scrutiny surrounding the case demonstrate that legal actions are never isolated. They carry weight that can influence reputation, governance, and the rule of law. Nigeria's judiciary, its institutions, and its leadership now face the challenge of demonstrating that legal procedures were handled correctly and fairly. As this process unfolds, it is essential for Nigerians to follow verified information, understand the legal procedures, and avoid speculation. The ICC acts on evidence, procedure, and international standards, not on emotions or political pressure. The coming months will determine how far the proceedings go and what impact they may have on Nigeria's legal landscape, its international reputation, and the accountability of individuals involved. This is not just a story. This is a test of Nigeria's justice system, its ability to adhere to law, and its readiness to face scrutiny on a global stage. Every development will matter, and the world is watching.